So Jack Smith is running scared. The butcher who tried to jail Trump for exposing the swamp just got hit with Jim Jordan's subpoena from hell. Illegal surveillance of senators, evidence planting at Mar-a-Lago, stealing medical records, and violating attorney-client privilege. And every crime has his fingerprints on it. Now he's touring law schools, desperately trying to rewrite history before the handcuffs come off. So too late. Every word out of his mouth becomes evidence, and every excuse exposes another felony. And the special counsel who thought he was above the law is about to learn what real accountability looks like. And his deep state protectors can't save him now. The hunt is on. Keep watching. So as many investors have seen recently, exploration companies are looking south. With U.S. policy becoming friendlier towards domestic supply of critical metals, U.S. copper prices have soared after recent threats of a 50% import tariff, highlighting the value of domestic sources. Could District Copper Corp be lining up for that kind of role? The company recently secured a U.S. market listing, and that move alone points to a bigger vision ahead. District Copper is advancing its copper projects, positioning itself as a gateway for supplying the copper that powers U.S. infrastructure, clean energy, and advanced technology. With copper hitting 16-month highs, rising supply demands, and growing uncertainty due to the potential closure of one of the world's largest copper mines in Indonesia, domestic production is more important than ever. Against this backdrop, and with a new U.S. listing, District Copper Corp could be setting the stage for further growth and potential expansion into key U.S. states renowned for strategic minerals. The company is building its future around one of the most essential metals of our time, positioning itself for what comes next. Check them out in the link in the description, and thank you to District Copper Corp for making today's video possible. So Jim Jordan just issued a congressional subpoena that exposes Jack Smith's entire criminal operation. We've been waiting for this, guys. This is what I voted for. So look at this letter. It's a roadmap of prosecutorial corruption and partisan prosecutions, evidence manipulation, illegal raids, and we learn Smith's team tracked private communications of sitting Republican senators. It's insane. And CNN could not hide their panic as they listed all the criminals now under investigation. Watch this host stutter as reality hits. Check it out.
Who's next here? Because there, of course, have been kind of lists out, and as Scott pointed out, the president freely talks about a lot of the people that he wants to go after. So here are some people that are under investigation right now. John Bolton, John Brennan, Lisa Cook, of course, Federal Reserve, Chris Krebs, Adam Schiff, Jack Smith, Miles Taylor. The public calls to investigate Reid Hoffman, Mark Milley, George Soros, Fani Willis, Chris Wray. This is quite an array of people. Scott Jennings, one person we've heard about is John Bolton, although it sounds like that investigation may have begun under the Biden administration.
Yeah, that started under Biden. And from what I read in the newspaper, they did find classified material, according to the reporting, in his house. And so I don't know if you...
Yeah, he was holding on to stacks and stacks and piles of classified documents. That's John Bolton, guys. Also under investigation is Brennan, Schiff, Smith, Soros, Fani Willis, the whole corrupt cabal. There are hundreds more who need indicting. And Senator Ron Johnson reveals a shocking truth about Smith's surveillance operation. This wasn't his first time being targeted by a weaponized FBI. Take a look.
This doesn't surprise me, but it should shock every American of what the Biden administration has done. By the way, this is the first time I was targeted by the FBI. Under the Obama administration, the same thing happened to both Senator Grassley and I. As part of the Foreign Influence Task Force, we were giving a briefing to try and convince us that the Hunter Biden laptop was no big deal. Basically, they're trying to throw us off the track. So this is major corruption.
He said it, major corruption, and guess who it started under? Barack Obama. It's the same playbook. Target Republicans, protect Democrats, and weaponize justice. Does that sound familiar? And Eric Trump exposes the depth of Smith's criminality. They planted evidence, seized privileged documents, and violated every law in their desperation to destroy our favorite president, Donald Trump. Take a look.
I told the FBI this day one. Come on, come down to the basement of Trump Tower, see if we have any secret servers. There was none. Yet they let that lie perpetuate for a 3-year period of time so one greedy person at first could get a couple extra votes, that was Hillary Clinton, right? And then when she was beaten so bad by a bunch of people, including myself, that didn't know what a damn delegate was, didn't know what the Iowa caucuses were, because that was never the world that we were in, it allowed her to save a little face, saying that there was some foreign actor who otherwise intervened, which is the only reason she lost. It was a sham, and the entire world knows it was a sham, and there's been no consequences. There's no consequences when she deleted 33,000 emails. There's no consequences when, I mean, these are the biggest criminals in the world. Back to Jack Smith, he was planting classified folders on my father's office at Mar-a-Lago. They took his medical records. They took his legal documents, protected by attorney-client privilege. They took everything. They broke every single law in their attempt to try and destroy the man's life, and they lost. And they lost in an embarrassing fashion, and I could not be more proud.
What they did to the Trump family is one of the most worst things ever imaginable. They tried to destroy Trump. They tried to destroy his kids. They tried to destroy every single person around him. They arrested his attorneys. They planted classified folders at Mar-a-Lago. They stole medical records. They took, they were taking attorney-client privilege documents. These are felonies. This is not prosecutorial discretion. And Lindsey Graham won't let this go. Smith surveilled him and 7 other senators while they were doing their constitutional duty. Watch.
So I'm doing my job. These other senators were doing their job. I'm going to do everything under my power to find out what happened. And if it takes a lawsuit to prevent this in the future, I will bring it. It's a chilling moment when a rogue special counsel who's politicized to the core was trying to find out who I was calling and why I was calling them as a sitting United States senator doing my job. We're not going to let this go.
He was a rogue special counsel, politicized to the core. He was tracking senators' phone calls. This is Watergate like on steroids. As Senator Hagerty reveals the pattern, Obama's FBI surveilled the Trump transition team. Biden's FBI surveilled sitting senators. Watch how angry he is. I was going to say swear words. Take a look.
Senator Hagerty.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. And Chairman Grassley, thank you for your leadership in making this happen. This is an extraordinary revelation that just took place this afternoon. My colleagues and I found out, all of us Republicans, by the way, that we were placed under investigation by this FBI, under the Joe Biden FBI that was led, I presume, by Jack Smith and his predecessors. This isn't the first time that it's happened, though. Senator Johnson just mentioned this. I served on the Trump transition team in Trump Tower in 2016. Senator Blackburn was vice chair of the transition committee then, as were probably a dozen or more members of Congress. To think that we were surveilled by the Obama FBI. This corruption runs deep, and it's gone on for far too long. And the fact that it's happened here again, the fact that they are looking at our records in 2023, sitting members of the United States Senate. Again, the only thing that we have in common, the only thing in common in this entire list.
I'm going to cut him off for 1 second. Let me know in the comments how many of you knew this was happening the entire time. We all knew this. We knew they were doing this. Everything seemed too perfect. It seemed like they knew everything that was going on in the background because they did. They put people in places to try to destroy an incoming president, and they literally overthrew his first administration.
Is that we're all Republicans. They've decided to come after us. This is as partisan as it gets. The FBI and the corruption that's running there has to be cleared out. Thank God we have Kash Patel and Dan Bongino there. This has to be addressed. It has to be resolved. It needs to happen today.
The only thing we have in common is that we are all Republicans. This is partisan warfare using the justice system as a weapon. And yet people on CNN will sit there and say Trump is doing the same thing. They're out of their minds. Now watch Smith on his damage control tour, trying to pretend that he cares about expendious prosecution and the rule of law. Garbage. Take a look.
There is black letter, unopposed in any way, Supreme Court precedent that says moving cases forward expeditiously is it's not just the defendant's right to a speedy trial. The public has an interest in the expeditious prosecution of cases. And we said that the courts agreed with us. The district court agreed with us. The appellate court agreed with us. Even the Supreme Court, that didn't expedite the case as much as we wanted to, they did expedite it.
So he's admitting rushing Trump's case, caring more about speed than justice. And the public's interest? No. The deep state interest in election interference. And here's Smith's twist logic to justify his two-tier justice system and why Biden is walking free while Trump gets prosecuted. Watch.
The difference is the facts. The rule of law allows for different outcomes when the facts are different. One of the major differences between the two cases is the obstructive conduct in the case that I investigated. And that's important for a couple of different reasons. One reason is to prove illegal possession of classified documents, you need to show that you possess the documents, or the defendant possessed the documents willfully. And that means he knew what he was doing was wrong, and he knew he was possessing.
What he forgets is that the president can declassify any document at any time. He has the ultimate say-so when it comes to what's classified and when it isn't. So he's trying to prosecute Trump for something he declassified before he left office with it. Biden then put out something saying, oh no, we're actually going to reclassify those, making it a crime for Trump. Then they took away his, his ability to say presidential immunity. It's disgusting.
Possessing the documents. In my particular case, we had tons of evidence of willfulness. We had, and the obstructive evidence, publicly saying these are my documents or things like that, and I can keep them. The evidence to not give the documents back when the government even tried to get them back before there was a criminal investigation. Those sort of things, and then after the investigation started, still refusing to give them back, and then trying to obstruct the investigation. That helps prove willfulness. That sort of evidence didn't exist in the other case. And there are, I could probably keep you all here for a long time talking about the differences in terms of, the numbers are not, I want to make sure I get this pretty close to right, but almost 4 times as many documents that the person I was investigating compared to the other case.
I love how he says the person I was investigating. We all know who you're talking about, dude. Come on, cut the crap.
The sensitivity of the documents. I think Special Counsel Hur said that the documents that he most likely could bring a prosecution on were over 15 years old and dealt exclusively with the conflict that had ended in Afghanistan.
Yeah, but he also said that Biden was too inept to stand trial because he was an old, frail old man that was feeble of the mind, while he was a sitting president of the United States. God, these people are psychotic.
As we alleged in our indictment, the documents I was dealing with were much more sensitive and much more recent, and we laid out the sort of subject areas, those sensitive subject areas, in the indictment. So there were a number of differences between the case, and that is what the rule of law wants, is to have situations where different factual outcomes, different levels of proof can result in different outcomes, and that's what I think happened here.
So I'm going to translate that last statement for you. He said different outcomes for different facts. Translation, different rules for different parties. One standard for Democrats, another standard for Republicans. And guess who always goes to jail? The Republicans. And this clip exposes Smith's complete hypocrisy. He warns against outcome-driven prosecutions while running the most outcome-driven witch hunt in bleeping history. Take a look.
A lot of people think this is boring, but process is the great protection of individual rights. Do we have processes, and are they administered equally for everyone?
We have those when people take politics out of it, and we don't have Democrats who are insane prosecutors that George Soros funded and stuck into office so they can run their communist takeover of our country. That's when it's fair, not what you're doing right now.
So do you have a right to counsel? Do you have a right to put on a
Trump had a right to counsel, but you arrested all of his freaking attorneys.
Defense? Can you appeal the decision? And then are the laws being applied to you the same way they're being applied to everybody else? That's challenging with rich and powerful people the world over. But on one end of the spectrum, you can go back to Stalin's trials of the Bolsheviks, right up to the trial of Alexei Navalny. Right.
And they'll have Jack Smith's trials of the Trumps. It's going to be right up there with Bolshevik and all those psychopaths.
Right? That the outcome was predetermined. And
just like in your trial.
As a prosecutor, the role we play in a case is making sure that the choice to bring a case is not predetermined. The judges.
I mean, he's trying to set up his own defense in court or something. This guy is out of his mind, lying through his teeth. He looks like a skeleton or something sitting there. It's insane.
Or the juries in certain jurisdictions will decide the outcome. But as a prosecutor, when you take on a case, there should not be a predetermined outcome. That's one of the really wonderful things about a career as a prosecutor.
Unless your name is Jack Smith or Letitia James. I'll stop cutting it. I'm sorry.
Is you have to be able to build something, and if you find as you're building it that it's not righteous, that's the way it goes. And so I think making sure processes are applied equally, that is critical, and it's a good way for you to measure if something is legitimate or not. If you see someone who is driven by an outcome, and they're going to get that outcome no matter what, you should be very suspicious of that, whether it's as a prosecutor or a judge.
So be very suspicious of prosecutors driven by outcomes. He just described himself. Tell me that in the comments. Do you agree? He just described himself for like 10 minutes. This is a confession disguised as a lecture. And Smith opposed cameras in Trump's trial, and I wonder why. Watch him squirm while explaining his fear of transparency. Take a look.
Yeah, and so I've worked in different jurisdictions, and I'm familiar with different jurisdictions who've answered that question a number of different ways. In the federal courts in the U.S., they're not permitted. In a lot of state courts, they are permitted. In international courts, it's interesting. They do a different thing where you might live stream the proceedings, but for certain witnesses or their identity of the witnesses, that's not public. They sort of do it piece by piece. In some child abuse cases or domestic violence cases, I've seen it be public except for that.
Then where were you on Hunter Biden? He had all sorts of crazy stuff on his laptop, and you guys gave him a freaking pardon.
For me, and we oppose there being cameras in the courtroom in the investigation and the trials or the cases I had as special counsel, because my problem with it is I think that's something, I want it to be transparent as possible, and I think
I almost can't even listen to this guy anymore. He's just lying. He's just, it's so insane. Like, he believes the words coming out of his own mouth. He thinks he had to have been sitting there in the mirror talking to himself to make him believe the BS. To Letitia James, who campaigned on arresting Trump. Jack Smith was right next to her doing the whole thing the entire time. But he's sitting here trying to BS whoever this guy with the pony man bun thing is. And we're not buying it.
People behave differently when there's cameras, and it affects the witnesses. I think there's more of an argument maybe for it in situations where there aren't witnesses testifying, but I think I am concerned that it changes how people behave in the court, and that's a difficulty. But I do understand why people want to do that, and as I said, it's happened in some jurisdictions. I just have a concern about that, about how it affects how people behave in the proceedings.
When he said he wants it as transparent as possible, but no cameras, people behave differently. Yeah, Jack, it's like following the law when America is watching, especially if something of that magnitude. And watch Smith preach about following court opinions while he twisted every law he could to target Trump, his family, and his allies. Take a look.
We followed it. There was never a question that we were going to follow the law as the Supreme Court said the law now was. And I think that's really important to understand, because I think once we get in a position where we start talking about maybe not following court opinions we don't like, we are lost in terms of the rule of law. And so
we followed the law as the Supreme Court said, except when he didn't, every day. And this is gaslighting coming from the man who invented new interpretations of law just to prosecute his political enemies, the Trump family and his allies. And Andrew Weissman reveals Smith's deep state pedigree. He was handpicked and groomed by the establishment to be their attack dog. Take a look.
As I mentioned, Jack started his career as an assistant district attorney. That's at the state level.
Okay, let me know in the comments how many people thought he would say and talk exactly the way he's talking right now with the man bun and everything. I pictured his voice sounding like this, and he didn't disappoint. I just can't wait for whatever he's got to say.
In New York for the revered and legendary Robert Morgenthau. He then joined the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of New York. That is where I also started my prosecutorial career, and as both of us know, it's all downhill after that. In the Eastern District of New York is, I think, everybody who is a federal prosecutor will say the best job you've ever had. But you went on to many great things after that. You went to Main Justice, as I mentioned, where you were the head of the public integrity section that either handles or
he was head of the public integrity section? Oh, God, he screwed that pedigree up.
Oversees all of the public corruption cases in the United States.
Well, he should add his name to the people that's going to be investigated. From Manhattan DA Morgenthau to head of public integrity of all things. I can't even get through that without laughing. His entire career was built on policing political enemies. And this is who they chose to take Trump down. Here's Smith claiming politics play no role in his prosecution. The lies, they're breathtaking. Watch.
The idea that politics would play a role in big cases like this, it's absolutely ludicrous, and it's totally contrary to my experience as a prosecutor from, the time I was a junior prosecutor. When I started out, if I had told my boss at the DA's office, hey, I've got this case, and I was going to bring it, but I just found out that the guy is a friend of the DA, so maybe we could find a way not to bring it. Or if I said, hey, I wasn't going to bring this case because it's not a legitimate case on the facts and law, but I saw that he was an enemy of the DA and maybe we shouldn't bring it, my boss, my first boss, he would have tossed me out a window.
So he sat there with a straight face and said that the idea that politics played a role is ludicrous. This is from the same man running the most political prosecution in American history. His boss would toss him out a window. Who, Obama? I don't even think Obama could pick up a 10-pound weight, let alone his wife. Anyways, they gave him a medal. So finally watched Smith complain about his team being fired while revealing the purge culture inside Biden's Department of Justice. Take a look.
If you don't know, everybody who worked on my team was fired, not just the lawyers, but the administrative staff as well. I think these are people who have spent their careers sacrificing for the communities they want to protect for our country. Yeah,
and you ruined all of those good people's careers. They were all good people until you came in and politicized it and ruined their careers. You did that, Smith.
Really upset that people like that not only are being vilified, but that it's hard to get their stories out of who they are. Because I think the way we communicate with each other right now, it's very hard to tell a narrative. Because if you saw the narratives of some of these people, they're just briefly, there's an agent who worked on our case, who served our country overseas, multiple combat tours, decades as an FBI agent, fired days after his wife died of cancer.
An FBI agent who served combat tours fired day after his wife died of cancer. This is how they treat anyone who might question their corruption. That was intentional, folks. The entire team was purged, lawyers, staff, and everybody. So if you got value from this report, please tap subscribe. My final thought is next. So Jack Smith is finished. Every clip from his pathetic speaking tour is another nail in his coffin. He spied on senators like a common criminal. He planted evidence like a dirty cop. And he stole privileged documents like a thief. And he even fired a combat veteran whose wives were dying of cancer. And this isn't just corruption, it's pure evil. And Jim Jordan's subpoena is just the beginning. Every Republican senator he tracked, every phone call he monitored, every law he broke, it's all evidence now. He thought being special counsel made him untouchable. He thought the deep state would protect him forever. Well, guess what? He was wrong, and Daddy Trump, he's back home. The establishment groomed him from day one. Morgenthau to public integrity of all places, to special counsel, all built to destroy political enemies. Now, he's the enemy. So here's my question to you in the chat. Should Jack Smith face life in prison for his crimes against the Republic? Yes or no? And the tables have turned. The prosecutor becomes the prosecuted. Justice is coming, and check out our merch in the description below.